Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kastuba. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Nashville, Tennessee, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kastuba Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Friday. It's Tell a Friend Friday. You know what that means? If you got some friend that's sitting on a spiritual ledge, push him off.
I was going to say, that doesn't sound like where you're going.
No, I mean, pull them in. Pull them in. Don't push them off. That's the other way. Pull them in. Pull them in the window. They're going to fall into Maya. Yeah, you know, everyone's got a friend out there who's like, what are you into? What's all this mantra meditation? What, you know, why are you controlling your senses? Who is this blue cowherd child?
Why are you controlling your senses?
Yeah, why are you Well, people ask these questions, and you know, it's the day, the sacred day, to reach a hand out and pull them in from that ledge. The material world can be a scary place. We've all been there. It's been scary. And, you know, there's a good chance to, you know, hey, this might be an episode. I've been listening to this podcast. Here's the link. Send it to, let's just put it out there today because it's, we're going to call this the Christmas Marathon. 5 people, send the link. That's everybody on Zoom's homework. 5 people, send the link to a podcast that if you don't like this one, skip this one. Find an episode that you like and send it to them.
You know who's doing cool stuff is Hari Revel. You ever see the little clips that he makes?
Yeah, Hari Revel's cool. He's from Krishna's Kitchen in Newburgh.
Phone, yeah.
If you live in the Newburgh area or you just want to, like, you know, a lot of times vegetarians and vegans, they travel for their food. You know? That's what I'm telling Mara. She should open a vegan restaurant. The Kitchery Cafe. Don't you think that would be cool? The Kitchery Cafe. I've been telling her that for years. I should be a consultant.
Except you've never done it successfully.
So I've never done anything. And therefore no one's hiring me, and she keeps ignoring my great insight. Hey people, so tell a friend.
We got a couple announcements we should tell. Okay, what you want to?
Well, that's it. Tell a friend Friday. Get it out there today.
But Hari Revel, he somehow records on his phone like a clip. And then he puts the words to it, but he's good at choosing the clips, you know. And then
he's really good at choosing the clips. What I've noticed about Hari Revel, he always chooses you in the clip. Have you noticed that?
I told you he's good.
Why is that? He's good.
No, he doesn't. He chooses you sometimes too.
Anyway, you guys can do that too. If you like what's going on, you just hold the camera up, and you're like, "Oh, that's a good thing. That's a funny thing. That's funny, and spiritual."
Yeah.
And you make that into a clip.
You're not even holding the camera up, but you just do it like on your own screen.
Oh, there is? Okay.
Yeah, some way.
So anyway, you can figure that out. You don't have to do it like that. You could do it like that, but you don't have to. Whatever you can do, just to tell a friend and reach out. Okay. Let's blow this thing up in 2022. What do you say?
We can try.
Good. Also, there's been some people have mentioned about we have a list of people who really want to go to Columbia but can't afford it. If you want to volunteer, some people can't go but have the resources. If you want to reach out for a scholarship and say, you know what, I want to give something towards a scholarship, there's people who'd really appreciate it. These things are life-changing. Just reach out to Mara at Wisdom of the Sages 108. Say, you know what, I got a few $100s extra. I would like to put that towards some scholarship.
Nice way to give back to the community.
It is. It definitively affects people's life. You know, you come back from one of these all day hearing and chanting and, you know, stuff like that. And sometimes people just can't go due to other things, but they want to contribute in some way.
All right.
By the way, you cannot escape others. I did a program here in Nashville. There was others everywhere. It was unbelievable.
In Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville, Tennessee. This is a hot spot. Between Jenny Yoga 101, between Cindy Lunsford, between Strawberry Fields Yoga, these guys are out of control.
Moga. What about Moga?
Moga.
Moga.
Moga wasn't here yesterday.
What's Moga up to?
I don't know.
When Roga's in town, Moga's supposed to be there.
Yeah, when I'm in town. Come on, Moga. Moga Yoga. Anyway, so I'm leaving today for Houston.
Okay, Houston, Texas. We got a couple announcements we should make, by the way.
Okay. Yeah.
No show tomorrow.
No show tomorrow.
And I think no show on Monday.
And no show on Monday. I'm traveling.
I need a day off. Yeah, I need to recuperate a little bit still. So let's take Monday off. Saturday's no show, but I'm still like busy all day. So I think Monday. Yeah. You're traveling on Monday, so let's make Saturday, Monday days off. Sunday we'll have Drita Dasi, artist extraordinaire.
You're not just going to replace me Monday like you usually do?
I thought about it, but I thought too much work.
Let's bring in this interesting goat. He can replace Raghunath. This is a farm animal. Raghunath's very easy to replace with this dancing goat.
Okay, Raghu.
All right, let's dive into the Srimad Bhagavatam. But before,
let's not. You had a nugget for us this morning.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But before, you know, this person is very in tune.
He's great.
With the Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorites. Before I got into Bhakti, I was like, I want to be him.
Really?
And that is Leo Tolstoy.
Okay.
Leo Tolstoy wrote, I can never pronounce any of his books right, but he wrote
War
Anna
and Peace?
Karenina, War and Peace. War and Peace, that's a tough one. Death of Ivan Illich. You ever read that one?
I haven't.
That's a good one.
I read War and Peace, actually. I honestly did.
The Kreutzer Sonata. Read that one too.
Father Sergius is one of my favorites. Father Sergius.
Father Sergius. Mm-hmm. Mara, do you even know what we're talking about? You're well read.
I know what you're talking about. Read some of those books.
Do you have a favorite Tolstoy thing that touched your heart and said, you know what? I want to get into God. I want to give my life to God.
I don't think Tolstoy got me into God.
Really? Well, he was one of these, you know, the Eastern Orthodox Christians. And he just and he was from aristocracy. And after a while, it's just like he got into vegetarianism. And he wouldn't eat with his family, he would eat with the peasants. And then he started this whole like cult-like movement where he was sort of a guru and sort of outcast from the aristocracy and just and he was just a phenomenal, prolific, deep writer.
Yes. He was going back and forth with Gandhi. You know, he was
really?
The letters back and forth.
All right, Joe, here's my quote. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
It would be nice if wisdom had such a quality that it could flow from one man who is full of wisdom to another man who has no wisdom. Wouldn't that be nice? Because Stuba takes his wisdom chip and just puts it in my head. Would that be nice? Just as with two connected vessels, water flows from one vessel to the other until the water level is the same in both. Wouldn't that be nice? The problem is that to obtain wisdom, you must make independent, serious effort on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you can present someone, here's the Bhagavad Gita, here's the Srimad Bhagavatam, here's the Vedic canon of literature. That's it. You gotta actually act. That's why it's called devotional service. In that mood of devotion, then it starts getting, imbibed in the being.
Yeah, I think acting and reflecting too, right?
Acting, reflecting.
Yeah. This is how. Well, there's two Sanskrit words that may be relevant here. Is jnana, which means
knowledge,
and vijnana,
realized.
You could
knowledge.
say realized, or you could say. I think you could call that wisdom, right?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I think Srila Prabhupada translates it that way in the description of the Brahmana. They've got jnana and vijnana. They got knowledge and wisdom. Right?
You know what I like to say?
Yeah.
Jnana means how to build like a race car.
Okay.
Vijnana is where to drive the race car.
Okay. suppose. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, kind of.
Like, big deal. You got a great car. You figured it out. You can make a fast car, but where do you go? There's a lot of people just got nice cars. Don't know where to go, what to do. I made a lot of money. What do I do with this money? Right? I got a happy family. Well, what's the goal of a happy family? Where am I supposed to like encourage it somewhere? Some people's parenting techniques are just let the kids find themselves. Yes and no. yes and no.
Okay, yeah, there's a no side to that as
There's
well.
a no
It
side.
Sounds really great.
It sounds great on paper. Okay.
But I was gonna say, or just like, wisdom as realized knowledge. I mean, like, there's so much that we hear, and that you can give. You can give knowledge. One person can give another person knowledge, but the realization of that knowledge is another thing.
Sure.
And that requires action, and that requires reflection. We can say, hey, you're not your body, think about it, blah, blah, blah. And then someone goes, that's true. But do we live as if we're not our body?
Right.
And a lot of the verses that we're reading now will have to do with that, right? Taking it to that level of realization or that level of wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like our young Nitai Lieberman, our young Karuna. We got little kids who, if you're listening out there on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, there are little kids who listen to the show live every day, and sometimes in very peculiar time zones like Lebanon, etc. And they listen every day. And their parents got them, of course, into Bhakti, raised them into Bhakti, raised them with wisdom literature. And these kids, as you grow, truthfully, it's just not kids too, because we could all be into this. Even in myself, I was like, okay, I'm hearing knowledge, but am I going to apply it today?
Right.
Because life changes every moment, truthfully. Am I going to apply it now? Am I going to skip it and just overeat today? I'm just going to skip my wisdom. I know controlling my sin. I'm just going to pig out. Am I going to apply it every day? And I think a lot of times kids who grow up devotees, they are immersed in it, but ultimately they have to fly their own plane.
That's right.
Everyone's got to like choose. And it's not just like one choice, like, what's the denomination, like the Amish or something? They let their kids go out for 1 year and go nuts. Do whatever you want for 1 year and then decide if you want to come back to the church.
1 year. I think when they hit 16 or something like that, they're just kind of like, they make up
Mara,
their
can you
mind or
research
something
that
like right?
Amish party or Amish party? See what
Yeah,
comes up.
Rumspringer it's called. From
What's it
RMR
called?
the Great.
You knew that?
Rumspringer? No, RMR the Great People put it on the chat board.
Is it a 1 year thing, or does it just mean that they're free now?
I don't know.
You're gonna. We're
I'll
not
look into
asking
that.
your personal information. We just want you to look it up, please. You even knew you weren't an Amish scholar. So anyway, it's not like that. It's not like you get 1 year out to party and then you got to come. It's like, I want to apply this stuff every day because I'm going to get challenged by my senses and my mind every day. It's not like 1 year and then it's over. It's not like you can't just choose the church and then you're good. Then you're saved. We're not just joining a club. I opted in for this club. I got the official handshake, etc. We're going to be challenged every moment of our life. And am I going to choose north or south? Am I going to choose Krishna or Maya?
What you got, Mara?
Okay. For Amish youth, the Rumspringa normally begins around the ages of 14 to 16, and
That's
it
too
ends.
young. That's
And
too
it
young
ends
to
when
let
a
my kids
youth-
go out. They don't even know how to party at 14, my kids.
Well, for other sects, from Wagner Mennonites, it occurs between the ages of 17 and 21.
That's better.
But it says that it ends when a youth chooses either to be baptized in the church or to leave the community.
Okay. So that's their experimental phase.
It's experimental. You and I would have left the community.
Yeah, we're never
We were
coming
like,
back.
we left the community at 12. All right. And then we rejoined the community.
Yeah.
Mara's trying to leave. We won't let her leave. Sorry. Okay, let's get into the Srimad Bhagavatam. What do you say? Any other announcements?
We have some Bhakti Recovery
Oh,
Group
yeah.
meetings today, 1 and 7:30 p.m.
Bhakti Recovery Group, got to hand it to those guys. GVG Life Coaching, Nancy R., Empowered Beings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Rayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudirayit. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord, Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being. Unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning. And to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya. Bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated. And loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurunmidatam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances at their lotus feet. I'm going to give a shout out to Krishna. What's it called? The Murari Kirtan Sanctuary. They came and they cooked for our feast yesterday. We had a great satsang, and Murari Kirtan Sanctuary came down. They take care of cows. It was quite wonderful.
That's the alternative farm.
It's the alternative farm. Yeah. And now it's a clue to what gift I got you guys.
Oh, ghee.
I'm not going to say it.
All right.
Okay. Okay, let's go. Let's go.
Am I ever going to see it?
No. If I see you before I run out of my jar, then you get it.
Right. Okay. Well, hold it. One thing. Let me just try to understand. Was it something that you got from Mara and I as a gift, or was it someone gave to you as a gift to Mara and I, and you're meant to deliver it to us?
Wait a second. Mara, do you notice that Kostuba should have been a lawyer if he wasn't a pundit?
I mean, it just occurred
Mr. Capo,
let
me ask
you were saying,
given this ghee?
You were saying, I've got this gift for you. Yeah. It makes it sound like you got us a gift, but actually now it's occurring to me that someone else is giving me a gift.
Let me just share with you. These guys have cruelty-free ghee. I practically don't eat dairy whatsoever, but they take care of these cows till death. They churn it the appropriate way. They make it from butter, and they were selling it for very cheap, like $10.
I admire that. You still haven't answered the question.
Well, here,
did you buy it?
So I was like, I'm
us,
gonna, you know what? And no one was buying it. No one realizes the value in this. And I just like, oh, I'm gonna buy one. I was like, well, I'm gonna buy two.
Oh, okay.
And then finally, I was like, I'm gonna buy three. I'm gonna buy 3 of these. It's gonna last me a long time. And then I was just like laying in bed with my eyes open, going, well, I should just really give some away. I bet Mara would like some. I bet Kostuba would like one. I never see Kostuba though. So that's where I was at. Should I get? I'll give it to them if I see them.
Well, I can't. Actually, I should say Raghunath's very generous at heart.
Am I?
Oh yeah, and the other day, because I was buying a gift for my wife for Christmas, but it was a little expensive, and I was kind of like on the fence about it and everything like that. And it's actually a painting from this Driti Dasi, and Raghunath said, "I'll pay half." I was like, "Wow!" He just came out of nowhere with that. She was very touched by that. Raghunath.
I'm either generous or frivolous, whatever you want to call it. But I like your wife.
Either or, you're both. But
I like your wife. She's really nice.
No, that was really sweet, and she was very
wrote me a
grateful.
Sweet note. All right, let's dive into this deep nectar, big pot of nectar.
Bhagavatam, let's do it.
Okay, we are in Canto 3, Chapter 27, Text 24.
Yeah, we read 24 yesterday. Why don't we read it again? Why don't we finish the chapter today? There's not that many.
Let's do it.
Up to 30.
Let's seal it up. By discovering the faultiness of his desiring to lord it over material nature, and by thereafter giving it up, the living entity becomes independent and stands in his own glory. Trying to lord it over material nature, I can be the center. I can be happy on my own by like manipulating the material world, controlling things and people. No.
Does it work?
No, it doesn't work.
Does it make you happy?
Been there, done that, tried it.
You've recognized that there's a faultiness in it. You discovered it.
Yeah, it's always peppered with pain. Peppered with pain. Hey, we're peppered with pain from Scranton.
that would work.
Peppered with pain. It's a good one. Okay, so that's 24. This is 25. Yeah. Come on.
Whenever you're ready.
I know.
What do you do?
In the dreaming state, one's consciousness is almost covered. In the dreaming state is almost covered. and one sees many inauspicious things. But when he is awakened and fully conscious, such inauspicious things cannot bewilder him. Okay, that makes sense. You get a little weird. Ever have one of those, not like a bad dream, but like weird, it's getting weird, and you're like, trying to shake your way out of it.
Yeah.
Hey, Mara, I bet Kosua doesn't even get bad dreams, Mara.
Oh, no.
I get some weird dreams.
No, you don't.
I do.
The influence of material nature cannot harm an enlightened soul, even though he engages in material activities, because he knows the truth of the absolute, and his mind is fixed on the supreme personality of Godhead.
Let's
so
read
beautiful.
that. Each one of these verses is like strong, but this is a good one. The whole
That's a good
formula
one.
here. Let's hear it
The
again.
influence of material nature cannot harm an enlightened soul, even though he engages in material activities. It's not really material. He's just gauging an activity. They're materials of this world because his focus is there. They're in this world, but not of this world. That's where that's our home run, our field goal, our
Touchdown.
touchdown. That's what we want. We want to be in it, but not of it. You want the purport, sir, or no?
Yeah, why not?
All right. Lord Kapila says, Mayi Manasam, a devotee whose mind is always fixed upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, is called Atmarama, or Vidita Tattva.
Okay, so both these terms have been used in this verse here. Atmaramasya karhichit. And what was it? Vidita
Vidita?
Vidita tattvasya. It means like one who's like seeing the truth, one who knows the truth.
And Atma is like we know as the soul or the self. Rama, filled with that joy, right? He's filled with
Atma
joy
Rama.
within his self. I don't have to run here and there for happiness. It's already in the self.
It's in the
I'm
self.
just like this blissful being.
To me, we're talking about wisdom, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, that's part of wisdom. Part of, if we're actually going to be wise, it means realizing this, not just knowing that. Like knowledge means like, that's an interesting theory. I like that idea that
Sure.
like happiness is something that's internal and we don't need anything external for it. That external things kind of give a sort of type of happiness, but it's not real happiness and it disappears as quickly as
Sure.
it comes. But wisdom means not only that I've heard that and appreciated it, maybe bought into it, but that it's gone so deep in me that I live it now. Right?
Sure.
And so therefore the senses come under control because I'm finding that happiness within.
Sure. Sometimes people feel like, well, I'm already there. I'm very happy as it is. I'm not greedy. It's one of those things like oftentimes people like, if you have stuff, see how you do if you had a lot of money. Would you be greedy then? Or if you lost all your money, would you be greedy then? See, this is the person who actually, whether they have tons or they have nothing, they're equipoised. See, I might be happy with the money I have, and I feel like, yeah, I'm pretty good about money. I have a good relationship with money. But if I was to lose all my money, and I might be desperate and very clinging and not know how to live a more simple life. Or if I had tons of money, it might affect my consciousness as well, too, because that can happen as well. So these are people who are like in this world, but not of this world. They're not affected. If tons of people said, you are the coolest, you're the greatest. And they fall, sometimes people get famous and they have droves of people and it affects their mind. It makes them crazy. They lean towards drugs, intoxicants, stuff like that, or completely steady. This is what I'm talking about. These guys are like, they can have everything or nothing and they're completely steady. Atmarama.
And it's saying that the influence of the material nature cannot harm that person. Right?
Yeah.
Like in other words, if you have fame and it's doing something for you and how you feel about yourself, and then it's taken away, that can be worse than never having it in the first place, right? Like what you go through and the suffering and the anxiety, or even when you have that fame and you enjoy it, you may be in anxiety at every moment that it is going to decline, and then you begin to compromise your own values in order to maintain it, and then before you go down the road a little bit, you do it and you look in the mirror and you're like, who am I? What happened?
Right.
Yeah. But if you're this, here it says again, vidita tattva, if you know the truth, right? If you deeply understand the nature of the material energy, the nature of the self, well, then it can't touch you.
I love bhakti. Let
Makes
me
so
just
much
read the
sense.
second chapter, the second paragraph here.
How about
An
the
example, second
sentence
paragraph.
of the one that you started, or you want to move? Do you want to move down?
Oh, did I
Oh, he
start
gives an
reading?
example.
No, of the.
You never finished that
Oh,
paragraph,
yeah, I
but
never
you don't
finished.
have to. You don't have to. You could bump down if you want.
Okay, it just sort of seems more interesting here. This is what I do with my whole life. I just skip around, open books in the middle.
Imagine
Let's read
doing
from the
class
middle
in a
chapters of the
temple.
Chaitanya
It's like,
Charitamrita.
yeah, we're gonna skip some of this one.
We're going to
This
skip
looks more
worshiping this
interesting.
and go right to
here.
the more. Okay. An example may be cited in this connection, just as a materialist engages in the construction of a big skyscraper.
Mhm.
Right? You can make a lot of money building skyscrapers. You can lease out each room.
Is that how you make money off them? You rent it out. Thank you.
That's why I can be a commercial real estate consultant as well, Kastuba, if you like. A devotee engages in All right. So just like you can make money from a big skyscraper, a devotee engages in constructing a big temple for Lord Vishnu.
Okay.
Superficially, the skyscraper constructor and the temple constructor are on the same level, for both are collecting wood, stone, iron, and other building materials. But the person who constructs a skyscraper is a materialist. And the person who constructs the temple of Lord Vishnu is an Atmarama. By the way, a disclaimer is we don't know just because you're making a skyscraper doesn't make you a materialist, but he's just painting out extremes here. Okay. And it's just good to show that. And we know people. I mean, I know devotees, brahmacharis, like monks, who are so qualified. Like if you say, hey, Raghunath, build a skyscraper, you're not going to get a good skyscraper. It's going to be a mess. But we know brahmacharis who are building massive projects with many, many hundreds of people working under them, creating schools and universities and ashrams and temples and landscaping. And, they're just, that's just the way their brain thinks. But they're not doing it for them. Mm-hmm. They're doing it for the greater good and doing it as an offering. So you don't have to be a materialist, even though you're going through the same thing. Like Prabhupada says, you're going through, okay, we're going to need stone for the stone wall. We're going to need iron for the girders. We're going to need to bring in the sheetrock crew in here. We're going to get painters. And you're still going through the same thing that people who create skyscrapers are going through. But there's a difference. And the difference is your consciousness behind it. And we tend to think that, well, if I'm engaged in spiritual activities, I don't have to do anything. I'm just going to chill out. I've been working too hard. I want to be more spiritual and just sleep more. No. Sometimes you can be doing, we always say is, don't be busy doing nothing. We're busy doing nothing often. We say it's okay to be busy, but be busy doing something substantial as an offering. I want to be busy. I like being busy, but I want it to be a busy offering.
Well, I had a Krishna miracle the other day with Rachel, who's here this morning.
Rachel's where?
I thought you said Rachel was here, right?
I thought she was in your house.
No.
Rachel's there. Rachel, she's right here. Bring on Rachel.
So
she was here. She's here somewhere.
She was telling me about there's struggles that she's going, even assisting you trying to pull together the next kind of form of Super Soul Academy or whatever it becomes, and all the technicalities that are involved in it, and it's, legalities and so on. Yeah. And that kind of work, legal stuff, technical stuff, it's actually draining.
Completely draining. When Rachel sends me a text message, it is like getting a Tolstoy novel. I was like, okay, I got to sit down and read her text.
So it's hard. She's taking on that burden so that you don't have to, Raghunath. And and she was just saying that all that's involved in going through it and how difficult it is. But I know that she's doing it all as an act of devotion, right? She could be making a lot more money doing other stuff, and but she's doing it out of service. And I said, there's a book you ought to read.
What?
And this commentary reminds me of that book. And she said, what book? And there's a new book out, relatively new book out, by Giriraj Swami.
Oh, yes. Build Me a Temple or something like that?
I'll Build You a Temple, which is a history of the building of the Mumbai ISKCON temple. That was an incredible struggle. It was an incredible battle, on many levels, dealing with all kind of cheaters, dealing with violent mobs, and criminals. And
I know when you
just-
hear about like, we're going to build a temple, like, oh, how precious. The doves are going to fly in with the building materials and drop them down for us. No, it has to deal with like Indian mafia, a criminal guy selling the land.
Yeah, what to speak of, snakes and rats and disease. And it was just like a monumental, challenge that went on for years. And so when Prabhupada writes this, he knows this because he built these temples. And so he knows all that's involved in it. But, the Giriraj Swami, he was very close with my guru, and the two of them were like central to building that temple. And it just reminds me of I said to Rachel, you ought to read this. I said, there's a book you ought to read. And she said, what? I said, I'll build you a temple, this new book. She said, are you kidding me? I just bought that book. It's sitting on my nightstand right now, just waiting for me to read. That was the next book she had planned to read anyway.
Yeah.
But like within that book, I think it was Giriraj Swami or my guru, might have been both of them. Like in that history, they said, I think my guru said to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, I know better like the Mumbai law codes, about building right now than I do about Bhagavad Gita. It's like my whole mind is like caught up in all of this technical, mundane, minutia of law and and all of these apparently very materialistic things. And Srila Prabhupada encouraged him. He said, I don't know if it was in this case, but it was part of the whole thing where he said, we call that anxiety Krishna anxiety. And he said, and you should purchase it at any price.
Okay, I'm writing that down. Krishna anxiety. Forget the Krishna miracle. We want Krishna anxiety.
And we should, and not even that we're trying to escape Krishna anxiety. We should purchase it at any price. In other words, it's so valuable to give yourself wholly to serve in that way. And I'll take on whatever anxieties are there, in order to serve. That kind of, that goes even beyond even the part of the principle that's here. That's like, it's one thing if I'm doing it for myself, then it becomes binding through karma. If it's another thing if I do it through service. But what to speak of with one's heart? One says, I'll take on the burden, I'll take on the anxiety because I want to serve. Then one gets special blessings. That's bhakti. Because
you can get all those, and all those same materialistic things will arise in the heart, and that's what we have to do our work on. That's where we separate our material self from our spiritual self. So it's not like you're going to come into problems with ego. That's going to be there even if you're building the temple of Lord Vishnu. Like, look what I'm doing. If it not for me, who would do this? I'm so qualified. No one else is as qualified as me. So that's when I have to start working on, this is in Krishna's hands. I'm going to try my best. I leave it up to Krishna. Krishna, my guru, is empowering me to do this. You're still building, but you're getting purified in the building process. And this is, the beauty about bhakti is even something that's a massive material undertaking we can get purified at, but you have to check yourself, which these Giriraj Swami has, obviously, because he's such a great soul. But you have to check yourself because you're going to get all those challenges. And some of you are engaged in big spiritual endeavors, or maybe little spiritual endeavors, but it's still a big endeavor. And note that those things are going to come up, and you can't just say, well, I'm doing it for Krishna and it's good. No, we have to like refine ourselves. We're going to get challenged with our ego. We're going to get challenged with our senses. We're going to get lured by certain things. And we change it as an offering. And then those very big things in the world, just like everybody in the potentiality movement, they're also saying, you got to step into bigger shoes. You got to do more with your life. You can do more. You have the greatest potential. Who cares about your material potential? It's just going to make you miserable becoming a great material, having great material potential. We want to step into bigger shoes if we're going to become spiritually conscious. I don't want to step into material shoes if I'm just going to be busy, doing nothing, feeling like, what the hell am I doing like with this? And you hear these people say, it's just a game. Money is a game. It's not a game. It's just like lost in Maya. You can do great things with money, but do great things with money. Don't just do great things with money to play the money game, or you just complicate your life more. The great things we have to do is work on this kama, krodha, lobha, moga, lust, greed, anger, envy, my ego, controlling my mind, controlling my senses. Who cares if I'm doing great things, but I can't control my mind and my senses? Who cares if I get swept away by that current of material life?
it kind of goes back to what we were talking about
I'm
earlier.
never going to say Kastuba. What do you think of that Kastuba anymore? I've traded it in. Now it's just
Okay.
that's your cue.
All right. So, on cue, that reminded me of what we were talking about earlier when you said, what's the big deal if you can build a car if you don't know where to drive it?
There you go.
I was reading some this morning. I was reading a little Socrates.
You read a little Socrates this morning, Mary? He was reading a little Socrates this morning.
At least there's a Socrates quote. And,
Reading a little Socrates at 5 a.m.
What he was saying was, he was saying, I mean, I don't like exactly 100% agree with what he's saying, but I don't know if I'd want to debate him about it. but there's a wisdom in what he was saying. He was talking about education. And he was like saying, at least the way that it was translated or put forward, he was like saying that education in any field should only go up to a certain degree. Like you should learn about a subject, but he was saying that you shouldn't go so deep into that subject that he was saying almost that if you go too deep into any subject, you begin to forget what the purpose of the subject was in the first place. If you begin to, and that's what we need to learn. He was saying like that. I should go and find the quote because it was worded and articulated very nicely. But in other words, what we really need to know is what's the value of it all in the first place, right? Like what is the value of life in the first place? What is the purpose of life?
Right.
You go so deep. And when I read, I immediately thought Sanskrit. Right. It's like a lot of people get into bhakti or get into yoga. They get very into Sanskrit. They get very into studying these books, and they're studying the books like crazy. But they begin to miss the message of the books, and it's actually building their ego or their arrogance rather than leading towards humility, which is where the books are meant to lead one. Right.
Wouldn't it be great if we could just bring anybody on the show from past history? And today our guest is our Sunday guest, Socrates.
How do you like the show?
What do you think of the Bhagavad Gita?
Bhagavad Gita is fine. Your show is terrible.
I got a feeling I'd be friends with Socrates. Appreciate my humor.
Okay. Would you wear a robe?
Yeah. Well, it's a dhoti. Everybody wore dhotis. Who wore jeans? Muhammad, Jesus, Gandhi. Everybody wore dhotis. The whole world was in dhotis. I don't know how they got anything done, though.
Okay.
It's hard to do stuff in a dhoti.
That's a squirrel right there. Let's pull back the squirrel. Let's continue this commentary.
No, I'm serious. Have you ever tried to do manual labor in a dhoti? Like they always show those old pictures of ISKCON farms and everyone's like hacking things with an axe in a dhoti. I was like, put on some pants, guys. That thing's going to come right off. There's certain things like dhotis are impractical for.
Rogan, you made the joke. It's done. Now we can go back to the commentary. Okay. It was a good one, though. It was a good one. I liked it.
No. Or they should make a thicker dhoti, like a denim dhoti.
All right. Why don't you pick up there where it says the materialist tries?
The materialist tries to satisfy himself in relation to his body by constructing a skyscraper, but the devotee tries to satisfy the super self.
Super self.
I've never heard that one. Maybe that's the name of the new farm. Super Self Farm.
Oprah got it already.
Oprah got Super Self too. That's the struggle we're going through, people. Super Soul has been purchased by Oprah, the name. She copyrighted it.
Okay, any case.
And she's got deep pockets. Okay. The Super Self, the supreme personality of Godhead by constructing the temple. There we go. Although both are engaged in the association of material activities, a devotee is liberated. So we'll say has the potential to be liberated, right? And the materialist is conditioned or has easy potential to be conditioned.
In what sense you are in a liberated state if you're serving like that? Like in the moment. In the moment you're liberated, right?
Yeah. This is because the devotee who's constructing the temple has fixed his mind upon the personality of Godhead. But the devotee who is constructing the skyscraper has his mind fixed in sense gratification.
Okay, so it has to do with the mind. It's not the activity. It's the state of mind in which one is performing the activity.
Isn't it always just a tweaking of the consciousness, right? Tweaking of the intention.
It's true.
Like if Mara's cooking in her kitchen and she's thinking, oh, everyone's going to love my cooking because I'm the #1 chef in Columbia County. that's going to result in a different vegan meatball than this vegan meatball is an offering for Lord Vishnu, my deity. I'm cooking this with all my love.
Different.
It's so a different meatball. If while performing any activity, even in material existence, one's mind is fixed upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, one will not be entangled or conditioned. The worker in bhakti or devotional service in full Krishna consciousness is always independent of the influence of material nature.
Interesting. Throughout, if actually, like some of the verses we read yesterday and all the way to the end of this chapter in the commentaries, Srila Prabhupada is really focused and he's hammering something in again and again. And it has to do with the state of the distinction between the state of consciousness of the materialist and the spiritualist. And it has to do with the materialist thinking, I want to enjoy the material energy. And the spiritualist saying, I want to make an offering of the material energy. And that's just the whole thing. They might be doing the exact same thing. They might be both building a big building, but it's the intention that's different, right? And that's been tweaked, because that's actually where our freedom lies, is in our thoughts and our intentions and our desires, right? That's actually where all our work is really meant to be done. What we do externally is important in the sense of how it relates to how we're evolving internally. And so it's all being laid out very, very nicely. And Srila Prabhupada uses this term independent quite a few times, because it almost sounds like the opposite. It almost sounds like freedom sounds like I'm enjoying the material energy. I'm free to go and do what I want,
right?
Not what somebody else wants, what I want, and I can enjoy this world. But Prabhupada saying, no, actually, when you surrender to the will of Krishna, who is your divine source, and whose energy, by the way, this is, then actually you become independent. Well, independent of what? Independent of the control of the modes of material nature, independent of the control of the material energy. Here he said, they also become independent of the influence of material nature. In other words, I'm no longer a slave. It's not that my senses are dictating what I do or my mind is dictating what I do. I'm actually free to act. And when I'm free, it's like naturally, like a magnet, I'm drawn to Krishna. What does the word Krishna mean?
Krishna. Like I said that. It means all attractive.
All
Krishna
attractive.
All attractive.
So once you're independent of the influence of the material nature, it's like, boom, you get just... your independence it manifests as just like snap. You just like a magnet. You're attracted to God. And it's not like you're being forced. It's not like there's anything against your will.
Sure.
It's just like you're naturally like, boom, you go to what you're attracted to. But that's all on the spiritual level now.
Sure. Right. Yeah, we just have polluted intelligence. Like a magnet goes towards the wrong thing. Like a magnet. It's like, I'm going to choose the worst thing I could do.
Well, it's our senses that are drawn to a magnet, and we follow them. Now we're not independent. If we were independent, we would go to what the soul is attracted to, right? Because we are the soul. But we're following what the senses are attracted to. And there's a faultiness in that thinking, as it was described earlier in the earlier verse. We have to discover the faultiness in our thinking and then liberate ourselves.
All right. You want to go to the next verse?
Please.
Okay. This is a good one. 27. When a person thus engages in bhakti, devotional service, and self-realization for many years and births, he becomes completely reluctant to enjoy any one of the material planets. Like, we have options. I'm going to enjoy Venus today.
We do.
Do you? You going to enjoy Venus today?
Well, not today.
The moon?
those options are there. The Vedic literature lays out, how one can do that.
You can enjoy the planets, even up to the highest planet, which is known as Brahmaloka. Should have quizzed Mayor on that. He becomes fully developed in consciousness.
Sometimes there's these descriptions. I don't know exactly where they exist, but like, for instance, say Raghunath, say he had practiced yoga very seriously, maybe even for many lifetimes, and he got this opportunity where he was like rising up through the universe, right? Yeah. And he's on a path that's going to go the whole way to Vaikuntha, the whole way to the spiritual realm. But as he's rising up, he's seeing what's going on all the different higher planets.
It's like when you fly into an airport, and before you can get to your gate, You've got to like walk through the mall. Hey,
Yeah,
buy some
exactly.
chocolate. How about some whiskey?
Duty free.
How about some
It's always the same crap. I mean, how much chocolate or whiskey do I want?
chocolate and whiskey and perfume and I
Yeah,
always get a
perfume.
free squirt on my neck of some
That's what
cologne.
you get.
I was like, you know what? I stink a little. I'm just gonna whoop whoop whoop. And they're like, can I help you with that? Nope, just a couple squirts. That's how I roll in the airport. You got any chocolate samples? But yeah, so Coach Stu was making this point. The liberated soul. Here's liberated Raghunath, and he's leaving the earth, which is sort of ghetto. The earth is sort of ghetto, and
Yeah.
he's going up through the high. First, you got to go through all the planetary systems, and each planet saying, "Come on, check me out. Good things are happening here." I'm like,
And imagine what
no.
you would see.
Been there, done that.
But
Next
imagine-
planet.
Yeah.
Oh, have you seen this though?
Yeah,
I've been there, done that. By the time I heard that, wait a second here, levitation, mystical things appearing from your hands. Ooh, maybe I should try that. We're always gonna get offered something, some type of. We have to be fully materially exhausted to get back to that spiritual realm, or else you'll get an option. You
Right.
can go really high in the material universe.
Well, it makes me wonder because, whatever level of sense control, like let's say you and I have achieved in this life, right? In one sense, you can be proud of it, but it's really the pauper being proud of his penny, right? It's like what, the level of sense control that some of the yogis that we read about, it's just extreme,
Yeah.
But we see that even they, right? Even they become bewildered. So it's really and there's this Sabaramuni and others are described, right? I'm meditating underwater, incredibly sense controlled. I just see a couple fish having sex and suddenly my mind goes. It's like it's kind of a very humorous example,
You know my
But-
story about seeing animals have sex? Do you know that story, Mara?
Seeing those
She knows all
fish,
my
right?
stories.
Huh? Yeah, so my point is, it makes one, from the Bhakti Yoga perspective, it makes one realize, you know what? If my senses are going to be controlled, they're only going to be controlled by the grace, by the mercy of God. There is my own endeavor, and it's important to demonstrate that. But really, I'm ultimately dependent on God softening my heart, right, and opening it up to the taste of divine love. And that has the power that even as you're rising up through those different planetary systems and you're seeing all that's going on, it's like, I don't want that, right? No level of that am I interested in.
I like how you completely dodged my animals having sex story. It was very expert steering the vehicle.
Okay.
I was like,
Wonder if
yeah,
the
and I've got a story about animals having sex and me getting agitated, and you're like,
I thought you were talking about the Sobaramuni. We already said it. You had another one.
"Oh, my own personal animals having sex story."
Oh, I think you did talk about that. Monkeys or something. Yeah, you've shared that on the show before. We don't want to hear that again.
How do you know? How do you know people don't want to hear that story?
I said I don't.
Okay.
Text
All right.
28 and 29. We're almost done with the chapter.
Woohoo! Oh, Prabhu.
We might, we in the first year of Wisdom of the Sages, we completed first and second cantos and just like on the dot. We might finish third canto on the dot at the end of this year.
What do you mean the dot?
Well, in other words, it's like it wasn't we were in the middle of a chapter or anything. It's
like we
on the
finished
last day of the year
like-
we ended. Yeah.
Oh, like the last day of the year, or do you mean like it's the end of class? It's 7:56 or 8:56.
No. I mean, on the last day of the year, last year we ended the second canto.
Oh, really? Let's.
Yeah,
do
and this
something
year
like
we could
that.
end the
Let's-
third canto.
Okay, let's go for that.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't want to, be too contrived about it, but it's kind of moving in that direction.
Okay, let's see.
But we got to finish
devotee
this chapter first, and maybe we can do it today.
Let's see. My devotee actually becomes self-realized by my unlimited causeless mercy, and thus,
There you
when
go. You see, that's what I was just saying, wasn't it?
You're thinking like Prabhupada. You're thinking like the Bhagavatam today.
I'm thinking like Kapila Dave.
Maybe you are Kapila Dave.
Come on.
It's an offense, or I was either an offense or a appreciation. My devotee actually becomes self-realized by my unlimited causeless mercy. And thus, when freed from all doubts, he steadily progresses towards his destined abode, which is directly under the protection of my spiritual energy of unadulterated bliss. That is the ultimate perfectional goal of the living entity. I agree with that. Unadulterated bliss. That's what I want.
That's actually our default mode, right? But we've become so confused that we've switched our mind's default mode is like enjoy the material energy. That's what you're meant to do.
Yeah.
But this is actually the default mode. You know, that
Faulty,
dive in
broken, polluted intelligence, broken pickers. We're picking the wrong things. Broken pickers, like that.
Picking that you've picked that up from Nashville, right?
Broken pickers, no.
Picking the banjo down there.
Funny, picking a banjo. That is the ultimate perfectional goal of the living entity. After giving up the present material body, the mystic devotee, moi, goes to the transcendental abode and never comes back.
There you go.
Alrighty.
And now the last verse, text 30.
We got it in perfect time in 7:58 Central Time. All right. When a perfect yogi's attention is no longer attracted to the byproducts of mystic powers, which are manifestations of the external
Gotta let
energy.
that go, Raghu. Gotta let
The
that
interesting
go.
thing is we don't even know what mystical powers are. Like, this is not something you have to deal. Americans don't have to deal with, but I bet a lot of Indians who are studying all this stuff, they're like, oh man, I thought mystic powers was good. You know what I mean? Most Americans aren't like, well, I want to get into God for mystic powers.
No.
Right? This is
Yeah,
sort
it's
of
a
like-
yoga thing.
It's the yoga thing. Not an American yoga. It's not like you're going to
No,
go
but
to core power yoga and like, do you have a class on mystic powers? It's just
Well,
something like,
read the verse and read the commentary, and it'll talk about what you're talking about.
okay, when a
Short.
perfect yogi's attention is no longer attracted to the byproducts of mystic powers, which are manifestations of the external energy, his progress towards me becomes unlimited, and thus the power of death cannot overcome him. Purport. Yogis are generally attracted to the byproducts of the mystic yoga power, for they can become smaller than the smallest or greater than the greatest. No, Kostub, my point is people aren't going to yoga so they can become tiny or
I
giant
understand
or
that.
great or levitation.
I understood
Generally-
your point.
You understood that point? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Or achieve anything they desire. You know, they have power, they even have the power to create a planet. I'm here with Cindy Lunsford. She's not doing yoga to create planets. She just likes yoga. They like, yogis who have incomplete information of the result of devotional service are attracted by these powers, but these powers are material. They have nothing to do with spiritual progress. As other material powers are created by the material energy, mystic yoga powers are also material. A perfect yogi's mind is not attracted by any material power, but is simply attracted by unalloyed service to the Supreme Lord. For a devotee, the process of merging into Brahman, effulgence, is considered hellish, not interested, don't want to go there. As for elevation to the higher planets, a devotee considers this to be hallucinatory. A devotee's attention is concentrated only upon the eternal, loving service of the Lord, and therefore the power of death has no influence over them. In such a devotional state, a perfect yogi can attain the status of immortal knowledge and bliss. So, yeah, what to speak
Thus
of
ends the
good
Bhaktivedanta purports
abs,
to the third canto, 27th
strong
chapter, Srimad Bhagavatam,
glutes,
entitled
open
Understanding
back
Material
bend. What to
Nature.
speak of all that stuff? We don't even want to be able to create planets, levitation, all that stuff.
Well,
All of it's ultimately material, but
yeah.
we appreciate it. We appreciate being strong, open, flexible, grounded.
Well, the point here is that I might want the things that are in the heavenly planets. I think that was mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
I might want mystic powers, right?
Yes, we
they're,
do.
They're all different forms of they're all separate from our true spiritual interests.
Yeah.
They're all based on a faulty type of thinking, where I'm still separated from the root of my existence, where I'm still disconnected, from God. And so bhakti means I've let go of all separate desires, right? And
Right.
in all the different varieties. And some of those varieties are the material enjoyment of this planet, the material enjoyments on the higher planets, the powers of mystic yoga, and even like liberation from the sufferings of the material world. None of those things interest me. I'm only interested. I'm coming with love. It's like kind of like a test of love, you know.
It's throwing the lemon in the milk and it's separating. Like this is spiritual, this is material. But we do have a lot of like very empowered yoga teachers here who use their yoga teaching. Michelle Berger, Carla, Jenny, Paramananda Prabhu. We got Kylie. I think she teaches.
Yeah.
Just look at their names. But the thing is, they're using everything they have because there's benefits of the yoga system that enhance our life. But the point is, what's the main thing? And where are we going with all that stuff? Where are we going with being cleansed and detox and organic and wholesome and connected? And what else do we want in yoga?
Well, that becomes smaller and the smallest becomes, and my point is generally these are the things that I mentioned. There's material enjoyment, whether it be in the heavenly planets or whatever. Yeah. There's the enjoyment of...
Wouldn't you like to just go to a heavenly planet just for a day? One day in the heavenly planet, just a fiki. At this point, because he's had enough. Mara, what are our takeaways today?
All right. In this world, but not of it.
In it, but not of it. I mean, that's... Okay. Would be a cool t-shirt.
Do you not like that?
I mean, I say it every day, but it's sort of like big deal.
Yeah.
But it's a great thing, Ashley.
It's great. I need to hear it every day.
Okay.
I don't want to be busy doing nothing.
Great one. Shelter made a song of it. I can't stop quoting Shelter songs.
Purchase Krishna anxiety at any price.
Doesn't make sense if you take it out of context, but we understand now what that means. Krishna anxiety is good.
Yeah. Who cares if you're doing great things if you can't control your senses?
I like that.
It's not the activity, it's the state of mind in which one is performing the activity.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be fully materially exhausted. And consciousness creates a different meatball.
Consciousness creates a different meatball. Vegan meatball. Thank you. Thanks everybody for joining us. What a crew we have early in the morning. Hey, if you have questions for Questions and Answers Day, if you're listening to this maybe for the first time, we have Questions and Answers Day. We're not having one this day. There's no show tomorrow. But you write into Mara at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. And also, if someone wanted to do any bit, you could sponsor it. You can give $10 towards somebody's scholarship. Whatever, if you have some resources, want to give something, write to Mara, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com for our Wisdom of the Sages retreat, which happens in January 13th, I think, in Cali, Colombia. We're looking forward to seeing all the others there. And I want to thank especially all the Tennessee yogis and bhaktas. A really special time here. And remember, it's Tell a Friend Friday. That means you got to spread the good word of the Lord. People are sitting on the fence. Pull them back in. They're sitting on a ledge of material mind, and they're looking for a friend. You could be that hand that reaches out to them and say, hey, listen to Wisdom of the Sages. I think you're going to like it. And you know what? There's people who have come to us and said, I was recommended this by a friend, and it's changed me. It changed me. I listen to it every day. And you know who I met yesterday, guys? I met Sweetman Simon Sweetman.
No kidding.
And he had like a series of Krishna miracles happen to him. One was he couldn't come, and then all of a sudden he couldn't come yesterday, and all of a sudden something canceled. And then he was going to go to the Murari Kirtan farm, and he couldn't. And then all of a sudden they showed up and they gave him a ride. And it was just like the whole thing has been miraculous. As we engage in our spiritual life, our life becomes more magical. It just happens. You know why? Because you're a magical being. Don't forget that. Don't forget that, Mara. You, Mara, are a magical being.
Thanks, Raghu.
In case you forgot, we're here to remind you. Let the magic flow.